So greetings, everyone. I want to introduce to you all Ms. Mayra Cisse, who will be presenting the Certification Masterclass. Ms. Mayra Cisse is the VP of Service Delivery at the Government Contractors Association. She's also the owner of Certification Consultants, where she has an extensive background in certifying many companies and helping those companies to win many contracts. She also has an extensive banking background. She has worked in banking for over 20 years. So now I am proud to present to you all Ms. Mayra Cisse.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Pamela. So let's get started. Thank you so much, Pamela, for the introduction. I want to welcome all of you to the Certification Masterclass hosted by the Government Contractors Association. So excited you decided to join us today, and I think you're going to get some really great information. My promise is that today you're going to learn how to obtain the certifications that will position your business for success. Okay, so I do have a very special offer for you, and that I'm going to reveal to you at the very end of this presentation. So I ask that you stay with me until the very end so that you can take advantage of that. And then another thing I want to do is, if you're anything like me, you're probably listening to this webinar, you are multitasking, you might be typing up a quick email, checking messages on your phone, taking notes about something else, or doing a multitude of other things. But what I'm going to ask for you to do is just to stay with me during this entire webinar, because I promise you'll get some really great information. And if you stay engaged, you're not going to miss it. But if you're multitasking, then there's going to be something important that I share that you're probably going to miss. So, I know we can multitask better than anyone, especially we as women, but I ask that you just put that stuff away and stay with me for the next little bit. Okay, so like Pamela just introduced me, I am Mayra Cisse, the VP of Service Delivery here at the Government Contractors Association. And I have been doing certifications for businesses since 2011. And, the thing that I love about that is just helping small businesses position themselves for success. My background, as Pamela mentioned, I was a banker for 20 some odd years, and the last 6 years of that I worked as a business banker. So I was right across the table from businesses like you every day. And the best part of my job was making loans to those businesses, because it was just really, I loved the ripple effect of what that did. And let me explain what I mean by that. I knew that when I made a loan to a business owner, I wasn't just helping that owner with their cash flow shortage or whatever it was, but maybe they were hiring people. They were allowing the ability to pay their workers and to have those workers provide for their families and send their kids to college and all that. So I just felt like what I did in my small way contributed to making the world a better place. And maybe that sounds grandiose, but that was what I loved about it. So lending was the thing that I loved best. And then, of course, we all know in 2008 what happened. The real estate bubble burst. Bankers were the spawn of the devil, and all of it went to crap, right? So, I mean, we just couldn't lend money anymore. I remember very specifically, this gentleman came in with hundreds of thousands of dollars on deposit with us, a credit score of like 837. I mean, the highest credit score I had ever seen. And like I said, I was in banking forever. And we couldn't give him a loan of any amount. It was just lending had dried up to that point. Whereas, 2 years prior, if you fogged up a mirror, then you can get $50,000 with no issues. So, things just really changed. So the thing I loved most about banking went away. And then the other thing was, banking had turned away from the consultative environment that I grew up in, where I was that trusted advisor for my clients. And I have several people, even years after I left the bank, my old clients would call me. They were doing a real estate transaction or something, and they'd just ask my advice about it, because they trusted me, and they knew that I was going to give them information that wasn't in necessarily my best interest, sitting behind the desk at whatever bank was on the logo that I happened to work for at the time, but I was going to give them advice that was best for their business. So they trusted me. And banking changed to the point where I wasn't supposed to be that trusted advisor anymore. I was supposed to be a push-button salesperson that was just selling the product of the day, if you will. And I wasn't willing to ruin my integrity and violate the trust that my clients had in me to sell them something that they didn't need. I mean, I had the relationship with my clients because they trusted me. They would do what I said to do. So if I told them to buy this thing, they were going to buy that thing. But I wasn't going to betray that trust by telling them to buy something that wasn't in their best interest. So as a result, I could not meet certain sales numbers that they had. And it's not because I'm not a good salesperson. I've been working for myself since 2011 and have been able to feed myself and my special needs child and keep a roof over our heads and do all those things by successfully selling myself and my services all this time. But I wasn't willing to do it on someone else's terms, especially when those terms meant betraying my ethics. So anyway, long story short, I decided to quit the bank. And I quit because if I didn't quit, I was going to be fired. And I didn't want that being fired on my record, if you will. So, I stepped out in my business. I had already started my business in 2011, and it was 2012 when I finally stepped away from the bank, June of 2012. It was the biggest faith walk of my life, and, just haven't looked back since. But all that to say that I have been living and breathing this since 2011. So I know what I'm talking about. And I promise you're going to get some really good information if you stick with me here. Okay, so let's start with a couple of certification myths that we want to bust. A lot of people think that certifications are entitlement programs, and nothing can be further from the truth. Certifications will only provide you with an opportunity, but no kind of guarantee. Certifications, think of them like you would a degree. I have my MBA degree, and it's a great thing to hang on my wall and look really prestigious. But if I choose to go out and not do anything and not apply at any organizations and try to sell myself to businesses and my capabilities, that is not going to get me in a door anywhere just because I haven't have a master's degree or have a PhD or doctorate or whatever, any more than having a particular certification is going to mean a contract falls in your lap. That is not the way it works. This is not manna from heaven, okay? There is no benefit just to be certified. So let's squash that myth right there. Another thing that people have as a myth is that they want to use their certification as their primary selling point. And that's a huge mistake for any certified business. And the reason I say that is because you always want to sell yourself and your services and what you do best and your core competencies. Just back to the same example of a job interview. You go in there, the resume isn't what gets you the job because anyone can make themselves look good on paper. If you turn out to be unkempt, crazy, unable to put two sentences together and, obviously have no interest in a job or can't be a team player or rude and disrespectful or whatever in person, you're not going to get the job no matter how great your resume looks. The same is true of you and your business. You are not going to land a contract by using your certification and touting all the certifications you have. That's not what's going to land you the work. What's going to land you the work is selling the fact that you have stellar past performance, a work history of having done what it is that you do best for another client that looks just like the client that you're in front of and how you help solve their problems. That's going to be what lands you the work. And it's a cherry on top. It's just, icing on the cake that you happen to have this certification. Okay, so that's the way you want to position it. Please don't ever walk into a contracting officer's office or talk to a supplier diversity manager at a corporation or a small business liaison officer or whatever and say, oh, I'm a woman-owned small business, so you need to give me a contract. They don't need to do anything. All they need to do is escort you out the door and keep it moving. So just keep in mind that your selling point is what you do better than anybody else. And the certification is the icing on the cake. Another big myth that I hear all the time is that the more certifications you have, the better. Now, I do certifications for a living, and I do this for my clients. So you'd think that that would be the way that I roll and what I push. But, just like in anything, I have integrity. And I once heard somebody saying, I love this saying, integrity is like virginity. You either have it or you don't. So just because you can get a certification doesn't necessarily mean you should. And we're going to talk quite a bit more about that as we get into this, this presentation. But you really want to tailor your certifications to meet the needs of the clients that you're going to serve. So there's no one size fits all. All of this is going to be contingent on you and your business. And that's where I can help you figure out what those needs are and which certification is going to best position you for the success that you want. Okay, so I don't know how many of you may know your Latin or remember it from school or just are a nerd like me. So you understand the phrase time nose, and that means know thyself. And not only that, I want to say know thyself and your client. And this goes into what I said before, as far as just because you can get a certification doesn't necessarily mean you should. You want to find out who buys what you sell. Okay, and this may take some research. If you are brand new to government contracting and you don't know this yet, then we can help you figure out some of these things. But a lot of this is going to come down to what you do in your business and understanding your business and yourself. So we can help you, guide you through this, but this really needs to be a question that you answer for yourself. Is your client a corporation? Is it like an AT&T, a Coca-Cola, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Georgia Power? Is it something like that? Or is your client a state or local government, or the county that's right up the road or right down the street from you? Your local municipality, is that your client? Is it maybe the school systems, or one of the local municipal kind of offices? Or is your client federal? Is it the Centers for Disease Control and Department of Health and Human Services, or the Department of Transportation, the Department of Justice? Maybe you do medical supplies for prison systems, or whatever it may be. So, you need to know who buys what you sell, and then figure out from that's going to determine what certifications you need. And that's and leads me right to my next point. It's important because every certification is going to speak to a different type of client. And if you know who your ideal client is, then you can spend your time and money getting the certifications that speak directly to those clients. The way that I tell people all the time, especially if you're new getting started, hear me now. And if you're doing something else, please put down the phone or the whatever and listen to me and write this down. If you are brand new and you're just starting out and you have more time than you do money, then you need to spend your time to get the certification that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck with the least amount of money and the least amount of effort. So that's going to be your priority. You want to make sure that you're spending the least amount of time, the least amount of money, and getting the biggest bang for your buck with the certifications that you get. And that may be just starting with one. Now, does that mean you might need a few? Yes, but start with the one that's going to give you the biggest impact first, with the least amount of time and money on your part, and then you can always grow from there. Okay? And I don't think I said it. Maybe Pam did at the front end, but if you have questions, please jot those down, and we'll have time to get those answered for you at the end. Okay, so let's go into certification categories. You remember I mentioned a second ago when I was asking you to identify who you sell your products to, because every certification speaks to a different audience. So if you sell to those Coca-Colas and Northrop Grummans and Georgia Powers and those big Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, then you're going to want to get a corporate certification. And those, excuse me, let me get a drink of water here. Sorry about that. Okay, so those corporate certifications are going to be the Women or the Minority Business Enterprise. Also, veteran-owned small business. Oftentimes, large corporations are really big on hiring veterans and using veterans in their supply chains. And then the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender business enterprise certifications. And that's going to be for your more progressive businesses. So those certifications, again, speak to corporate clients. So if your client is Coca-Cola, Home Depot, IBM, just name the big company that you know of, and you're trying to sell to them, to their supply chain, whatever it is that you do make or sell, then that's a certification that's going to speak to that audience. Now, if your business sells to the federal government, to the IRS, to the Department of Transportation, to Health and Human Services, to the CDC, who else? Homeland Security, the Department of Defense, just name Department of State, any federal agency, then you're going to need a federal certification like the 8A Business Development Program, the HUB Zone, which is historically underutilized business development zone, the service disabled or the veteran-owned small business, the economically disadvantaged or woman-owned small business certifications. Okay, and also the DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Certification, is done through the Department of Transportation, but that more often than not speaks to state clients, which is next. But if you're working with the federal government, you're going to need one of these federal certifications. And then, of course, if you're doing business with the state, with your local county, with the municipality, with the school system, or what have you, then you're going to want to get the certification that's in that particular jurisdiction. We happen to be here in the metro Atlanta area of Georgia, so we have a plethora of counties here. I think we are have the second largest number of counties in the state, behind Texas, or we're somewhere in that top 3-5. So, we've got DeKalb County, Fulton County, City of Atlanta, Clayton County, Cobb County, Gwinnett County, and almost every one of these counties have their own certification programs. So depending on which school system or which municipality or which agency you're trying to do business with, that is going to dictate which state or municipality you need to go to get the certifications. And, they could be called a plethora of different things. Minority business enterprise, women business enterprise, female business enterprise, local small business enterprise, small local business enterprise. I mean, the names are legion. Disadvantaged business enterprise. But just Google, Fayette County or, Wabash County, I don't even know if that's a county, but whatever county you happen to live in, and put, so-and-so county certification, and something will come up that will get you to finding the information that you need about the counties in your area and what certifications exist. Okay, so let's talk about your certified business advantage. Okay, so if you're selling to corporate clients, they are motivated a bit differently than government is. The reason why corporations like working with certified businesses or diverse businesses and they have those internal supplier diversity goals are oftentimes because it gives them tax advantages. Amazon is all in the news now because they are relocating their headquarters. And Metro Atlanta is one of the folks that's on the list for that. And the reason why corporations make decisions like where they're going to plant their headquarters and all that is because of the tax advantages that the county, the state, the municipality is going to provide them for moving their location here and providing the resulting economic benefit, the jobs, etc. So corporations are motivated by tax advantages that they can get by doing things like this. They're motivated by the good press they receive or the PR that they can get when marketed properly. I was watching a commercial recently that, it had some veterans and patriotic stuff, and both my mom and dad were veterans. So, I really love veterans and appreciate everything they've done to sacrifice and serve our country. So, it struck me when I saw the ad because, I just paid attention, and I don't know what they were trying to sell, but it happened to be a Boeing ad. They were just going, they had the silhouette of the soldier saluting the flag and, some other stuff. And then I think the tagline was, we're all better when we work with veterans, but it was a Boeing ad. And, it wasn't touting their products and what they do, but just touting the fact that they like working with veterans. Why? Because it's good PR, so that's another reason why corporations choose to do what they do, because they want the press and PR that comes along with it. And also, oftentimes it helps them to meet their compliance goals. If a corporation like Boeing, for instance, prime example, they're a very large government contractor. So if they have a government contract that's greater than $750,000, they are required as a large business to have on file with that federal government agency what's called a subcontracting plan that says to federal government, here is how we plan to subcontract 35% of this work, i.e. that award, to small businesses, small diverse businesses. And they look for those women-owned small business certifications that corporations speak to. And because they're a government contractor, they also look for the federal certifications because they understand those as well. So those companies are looking for you so that they can meet their compliance guidelines for their small business participation goals. And then also, it's the right thing to do. Depending on the company, I mean, I'm a corporate refugee, so I can say it, and I worked in banking, and I don't know how many of you keep up with the news, but a couple of years ago, one of the large banks got into trouble for falsifying accounts. Basically, like I mentioned, the sales pressure was coming from the top. You got to meet these numbers or else lose your job. And I don't want to say the people didn't have integrity, but sometimes you're backed in a corner and don't have a choice. But these salespeople were opening accounts and just doing things to meet a number. And so they weren't doing the right thing. So all that to say, not all companies are about doing the right thing, but there are some that are out there that do just want to do the right thing. So that's why they want to diversify their supply chain and make their supply chain more representative of the communities they serve and different things of that nature. But you've got to keep that in mind when you're selling to corporations. So you've got to know this is what they're motivated by, and how can I shift and tailor my story, my certification story, to match their needs and to speak to what's important to them. So you want to speak to the fact that, I'm a veteran-owned small business, and I noticed, if you're talking to Boeing, I noticed that ad that you had where you think, we all do better when we hire veterans, and I firmly believe in that, and I happen to be a veteran-owned small business after, of course, you've sold your capabilities. So you're letting them know that not only can I help you with that good PR image that's obviously important to you because they've spent big advertising dollars on it, and I can help you meet this compliance issue because, you can satisfy that 35% subcontracting goal by working with me. So 2 of their hot buttons you can meet if you position your pitch correctly. Okay? And selling to government clients, it's a totally different ball game. Totally different language, and that's all part of the governance that we teach here at the Government Contractors Association. So again, back to me being a corporate refugee, I know how to schmooze businesses because that's what we do best in banking, right? So box seats and different things like that. But, you try to do that to a government contracting officer, it's called bribery, and it includes prison time and fines up to $25,000. So you don't want to do that, right? So selling to government clients, you've got to really learn which departments and agencies buy what you sell. One, these people are overworked, underpaid, super busy, don't have time. The last thing you want to do is piss somebody off because you're talking to them about something that's not even in their wheelhouse. So you need to do your homework and do it well up front so you're not wasting anybody's time, nor are you burning the opportunity to get in good with that agency by going to the wrong person with the wrong pitch initially. Because she might not be the right person, but she sits right across the desk from the right person. But now you've put a bad taste in her mouth, and she's going to tell that woman, the other person, when you call, don't waste your time with them because they haven't done their homework. They're not ready yet. So you need to make sure you're prepared. And you also need to choose just 1 or 2 departments to target. Okay. You've heard the term, you cannot, how do you eat an elephant 1 bite at a time? The government is like $6 trillion big. They spend $3.9 trillion a year. They contract over $450 to $500 billion a year. There is so much elephant here that you cannot eat it all. And you can't go after the whole herd. You've got to choose one elephant and try to eat that thing. So just narrow your focus down to one, maybe two departments, and then I'd say keep narrowing until you have one. And then, of course, after you get that one, you can go after the other. But you've got to be really strategic about who you choose to try to work with. And then you want to model your business after your successful competitors. The great thing about government is that everything is public information. If you're selling to the government, all of your business is out there, okay? So that's another thing. I didn't really touch on that, and I don't really during this presentation. When you're trying to do certifications, you need to understand that you have to lay it all bare. That means they're going to want 3 years of tax returns. They're going to want to see financial statements. They're going to want a personal financial statement, bank accounts, bank signature cards, all that kind of stuff. You can ask, well, why do they need all that? But if that's your attitude, you're not ready to get certified. They need it because they need it, and it's just like your mama used to say, I need it because, and there is no, you're not willing to provide it. If you're not willing to provide it, then you can't get the certification that you want to move your business forward. That's a total aside, but just know that you've got to lay it all bare and be willing to do that going in and knowing what you're after. All that said, because people that are selling business to the federal government, they have laid it all bare. So all of that information is public. So you can find out who your competitors are, who is currently selling to that department that you've identified that you want to go after. So you can find out who's won that contract that you've identified is perfect for your business. And then you can find details about them because you can get their DUNS number and information, and you can go to all the public systems and find out all the information you need to about them. Once you do, you model your business after them. Don't reinvent the wheel. Go out in there and copy what's working. I mean, of course, you are you. You are unique by virtue of being you. There might be 20 other companies that do what you do, but no one else is going to do it exactly the way you do it. So you've got your own distinguishing process and things that you do that are different from the competitor. So don't feel like, well, if they're already doing it, I guess what I'm saying is don't let this discourage you because somebody may already be in there and be successful. Everyone starts at a different place. And don't compare your behind the scenes to somebody else's highlight reel because that can get you in a bad place really quickly. Okay, so that was free. Also, you want to build relationships with the contracting officers and the end users at the department and agency. And what do I mean by the end users? The contracting officers, if you've been looking at doing government contracting, you know who I mean when I talk about the contracting officer. That is the person that is authorized by the federal government to obligate the federal government. They've gone to classes, they've got limits of whatever amount it is, a few $1 million up to a couple of $1 billion, and they're able to obligate the government to any particular contract amount based on their levels. The end users, however, are going to be the clients, basically. And this is a little bit confusing, but think of it this way. When you have a big, giant federal department, it's all depending on what the work is. The easiest example I can think of is in a building situation, facilities maintenance, for instance. Let's say you own a particular office building and the lights are not working, or you've got electrical problems or plumbing issues in that building. You are the client that needs to get your building fixed. You are most likely not the one that's writing the check to fix the building, okay? That's going to be maybe your CPA firm or something. In this case, in the government scenario, if it's the IRS building that needs work done and I manage that IRS building, I'm the one that needs you to come fix my building. But it's the contracting officer that strokes the check to allow me to hire you to fix my building. You need to build a relationship with the contracting officer, and you also need to try to build relationships with the end users at the agencies. That's going to be a little harder, but that's where if you've been doing work as a subcontractor, you can figure out who those people are while you're not priming the relationship and then start building relationships there. So when it's time for you to get the prime contract and be the one that's awarded the work directly, you already know who those end users are. They know your work and your work ethic and the quality of the work you do, and they can help be an advocate for you to that contracting officer, as well as you being an advocate for yourself. You also want to showcase your capabilities. I talked about this earlier. You want to sell what it is that you do better than anyone else, and you want to make that shine. And then differentiate yourself with the certifications. So your main selling point is, here's what I do, here's why I do it, here's why I do it better than anyone, and I'm the best solution out there for you. And oh, by the way, I happen to have veteran, woman, minority, whichever certification you plug into that pitch. Okay. Now here are the 15 executive departments of the federal government that are just listed here, just to give you a quick idea. So this is, think of it like the federal government. We've got the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. And then these are the 15 executive departments under the federal government. So that would be under the executive branch. And that's the ones that we think of most often. Department of Agriculture, Commerce, Defense, Education, Energy, and it goes on and on and on. So some of these are not so obvious, like Department of Interior. You may not know what they do, and it's not interior design. Not that anyone was thinking that. That used to be what I thought. But anyway, that's okay. So, and I have written newsletter articles about what each of these departments do, kind of the main sub-agencies under the departments. So if you need some information on that, reach out to me and I can make sure I get that to you so you can help educate yourself about where you need to tackle, where you need to focus your efforts. Because, we talked about you got to pick one elephant and go out and try to eat it. Okay, so selling to local and state governments. There's some pros and cons to this as well. The pros are it's often much easier than federal. You can also attend the pre-bid meetings because these places may be right in your backyard. You may go to church with, somebody, the mayor or what have you, depending on how big your town is. You may, serve be in the same PTA meetings with the person that's on that school, the principal and the people that are at the school system where you want to do some work. So, it's oftentimes easier. You can build relationships a little more easily. And then you can meet the primes as well at these pre-bid conferences. The cons are that each municipality, each county, each state is going to have a different rule. So, whereas federal, there is kind of one main rule. The DOD, Department of Defense, has its own set of rules, but they're almost identical to just regular federal rules. And then they tweak slightly per agency. But with state, local, municipal, it could be very different from one county to the next, even though they may be right next to each other. Another con is that the contracts are often lowest price technically acceptable. When you submit bids for local work at county level, then oftentimes you are submitting sealed bids and they are going through there, and the bid is separate from the actual proposal. They're going through, opening up the proposal, seeing if you meet the technical requirements. And if you do, then they open up the prices and the lowest price is the one that wins. Those that are technically acceptable move on to the bid opening, the price opening, and then, like I said, lowest price wins. So it's hard to compete in that kind of environment. And oftentimes, especially depending on the county, it can be very political. And depending on I don't want to say that, the corruption in the county, but anyway, so it can be very political. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so let's talk about your next steps. We talked about you need to get to know who your ideal client is. So that's very important for you to do. If you have not done that work, that's where you need to start. If you need some help with that work, we can help you figure out how to do that research and how to figure out who your ideal client is. You need to learn which certifications are going, or certifications are going to speak to that ideal client of yours. Research the certification process. and then gather your paperwork. And if you are a great do-it-yourselfer and you want to do it yourself with kind of a safety net, then attend our boot camp so that you can get the step-by-step instructions to do it yourself and to make sure it's done correctly. Now, I'm going to open up the floor for questions. Pam has all those questions that have come in as we've gone through this. And if you have some questions, feel free to type them in, and we'll make sure we get those answered. So, Pamela, take it away with the questions.
Okay, great information, Mayra.
Thanks so much, Pam. I appreciate it.
So now I have a few questions I want to ask you.
Okay.
If I'm a woman and a minority, which certification do I do first?
Okay, so that's a good question, and I get that quite a bit. We as women are lucky because I always recommend that if you are both a woman and a minority, that in your, let's say your clients are corporate clients, instead of doing the minority business enterprise, do the women business enterprise. And the reason is because the certifying body that I talked to you about, and I'll be going into more details later on that, is going to offer the ability for you to not only get your WBE certification, which is Women Business Enterprise, but also your WOSB, which is your Woman-Owned Small Business. So that way, with one stone, you're able to get what certification that will speak to both corporate clients and federal clients. So it allows you to kind of play both ends with get two bangs for your buck or whatever.
That's good. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that, getting the match for my money.
Yeah.
So if my clients are both corporate and federal, which one certification should I go for and that can cover both?
Okay, so the Women Business Enterprise is a good example of that. That one certification doesn't cover both, but that one certification will allow you, because you're getting both the WBE and the WOSB, you're able to speak to both corporate and federal clients. If you happen to be a veteran, that's another great certification where it's one certification and it's one certifying body. All of the veteran-owned certifications are done through Veterans Affairs, but that certification will often speak to both your corporate clients, because most of them have a veteran-owned small business in their supplier diversity, and of course it speaks to federal because it's a federal certification. The other benefit is that some states and municipalities will also look for veterans as well. So that one is kind of a triple threat.
Wow, now I didn't know that. Now that's a good token to make sure I tell veterans about that for sure. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so why should I bother with certifications?
I probably didn't mention that in the presentation, but the best reason for certifications is because with some of these certifications, especially on the federal side, you can go after sole source contracts.
Okay.
So that's where there's no competition and you get a direct award from the government.
Now, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, so you definitely want to, and again, back to everything I talked about before, how you're going to have to learn how to leverage the certifications, but that's where GCA can come in to teach you how to do that.
Gotcha. Okay. So what if I need help finding who buys what I actually sell?
That's another thing that we do a great job of educating people on with webinars and workshops and stuff that we have here at GCA. So if you need more help with that kind of identifying who your client is, who buys what you do make or sell, then reach out to us after the webinar and we can get you hooked up with membership so that you can take advantage of our hundreds and hundreds of hours of Training Vault information and all the other resources that we have that can teach you just that.
Okay, awesome. And now, great info, but now I need help, more help. How you going to help me out?
Well, that is a perfect segue because that's kind of what this is about. I mean, this was enough to kind of whet your appetite and tease you, but now let's move along to the rest of the presentation. Here we're going to start connecting the dots. So here are some resources that I want you to jot down for the different certifications. If you are looking at trying to do business with corporate clients, then the certifying body that we use is the largest and the most well-known in the country, and it's the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. There are three main other resources that you can choose to go to for WBE, but they may not be recognized by the corporation with whom you're trying to do business. So I recommend going with WeBank. Their process is one of the easiest, one of the most straightforward. They are one of the least expensive as well. And again, like I said, they're the largest and the most well recognized. So I think it's kind of a trifecta win. If you are trying to do business as a minority business enterprise and you need to be certified there, then you need to visit the National Minority Supplier Development Council. By going to their website, it'll take you to the regional certifying body that handles your area, and you can get the information that you need in order to become certified. And of course, if you're trying to get certified as a lesbian, the LGBTBE, lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender business enterprise, the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce is the one that administers that certification. For federal, then the 8A Business Development Program, and all of these are hyperlinks. So we do have a way for you to get a copy of this webinar presentation so that you can just click on the link and have that resource so you can go straight to it. The 8A Business Development Program is done through certified.sba.gov. That is going to be the website that handles the 8A Business Development Program. And the last one that I have here, the Economically Disadvantaged or Women-Owned Small Business Program. So both of those certifications are done through the certify.sba.gov website. You can visit there and get all the information that you need about certifications. And the historically utilized business zone, that is one of the more complex of the federal certifications. But, if you are a do-it-yourselfer, you can get through it. It's just a matter of you've got to put on your super meticulous hat. And the link there will take you to the general services login where you can get started with that program. And then the service disabled and veteran-owned small business is run through the Department of Veterans Affairs, the vendor information pages. So that hyperlink will take you to that area. And state, local government, that is all going to be based on your municipality and county if you're going to do county specific or municipalities. But the Department of Transportation is a great resource if you're trying to do business in your particular state. You just go to Google Department of Transportation with your particular state name, and it'll take you to the DOT's DBE program, which is Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and also their airport concessionaire DBE program. So you can kind of get a twofer with that certification. Okay? So if you've got regional authorities, like here in Georgia, we have MARTA. Out in San Fran or LA, they have BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit in the Bay Area. So, just identify the resource at your particular area with whom you want to work and Google them, and you will probably find information about those certifications. Okay, so if you do want more information, you think you kind of want to do it yourself, which is a great thing. I highly encourage it, and I have a master class. I told you, promised you a special at the end of this, and we've got a certification master class that we're going to be teaching here in Atlanta, Georgia on February 16th, 2008. It's going to be an all-day class, and I'm going to give you everything that I've learned since 2011. So if you are trying to do certifications yourself, you will walk away with having everything you need to do these certifications for yourself. The retail price of this is $499, but I am going to give you a ticket for free. What you have to do is email me at the email address that you see here, and what I need is your commitment that you are going to show up. I know that most of the time when someone gives you something for free, the facts are the facts. We are all humans, and the human psyche is that if it was free, it has no value. I'm telling you now, this is everything that I've learned from doing this since 2011, so it is a ton of value. But I need your commitment that you're going to show up no matter what happens. If we've got another snowpocalypse in Atlanta, you're going to have to come by helicopter or whatever, but you're going to be there because I will. That's my commitment to you. So if you want a free ticket, then feel free to email me and you've got to email me because we've got to physically send you the ticket because they all have specific numbers on them, and that's how we are keeping up with who has the tickets. And we are going to ask that if you don't show up and we've given you a ticket, which means that we've reserved the space, and the space that somebody else that would be willing to come cannot have, and you don't show up, we are going to be sending you an invoice for that $4.99. So keep in mind that that this is serious. So I need your commitment that you're going to show up. If you say you're going to do it, I need for you to be a person of integrity and do what you say you're going to do. And remember what I said earlier about integrity. Okay, so that is it for now. Feel free to visit us at Gov Association. You can email me, Mayra at govcontractors.org. My email address was on the previous slide. I'll just leave it here. And that is it. Thank you so much. And I look forward to meeting you in person on February 16th. Bye-bye.